Okay, another corner, another corner. Come on, bro. Do something off the set piece, bro. Do something. Please, bro. Please. I don't want to have to do my forfeit. Please. Come on! Come on! Come on! The World Cup Day 4 has just finished, and honestly, we saw more crazy games. It's crazy to think about that every single day throughout this World Cup. I feel like the games keep getting better and better and better. And some people think I'm glazing. I might be glazing a little bit, right? Obviously, it's in North America. I'm in Canada. I gotta glaze a little bit. But I actually think that these games keep giving us unexpected surprises. And the games today were absolutely crazy. We had 5 different games today. Very early on in the morning, we had the Australia versus Turkey game, which Australia surprisingly got the win. Then we had Germany beating Curaçao 7-1, being followed up by a 2-2 draw between Netherlands and Japan. After that, we had Ivory Coast getting a late winner against Ecuador. And just before I'm making this video, we saw Sweden destroy Tunisia 5-1. I'm gonna start off by talking about the Australia versus Turkey game because this game was very early on in the morning. And actually, when I was recording my Day 3 recap yesterday night, this game was currently being taken place, but since this game was being played technically on June 14th, I decided I'm going to leave it for today's recap. A lot of people were asking me to do it in yesterday's recap, so we're going to talk about it today. But Australia get a 2-0 win against Turkey, and honestly, this was very surprising for me. I feel like I've been a person who has been hyping up Turkey a lot so far in this World Cup, mainly due to their attack. I think they have an incredible attack. Obviously, we saw Yildiz come off the bench, but even with the starting formation, with Artukoglu, with Yilmaz, with Kokcu playing in the center, with Aduguler on the right, I think all 4 of these players are fantastic. And if you include Yildiz in this, you include their midfielder in Çalhanoğlu, I think these 5 or 6 players are top players. Like, I was thinking coming to this World Cup, they have a top 10 attack in the World Cup. But the way that Australia defended them in this game, the way that Turkey were not clinical enough, and the way that Australia countered Turkey, it shows us that Turkey still have a lot of weaknesses. Now, I've been saying that defensively, they're not the strongest, but I didn't think they were this weak. The fact that Turkey were so dominant in this game, they had 30 total shots, 8 shots on target. Australia had less than a third of that, 28% possession. And for them to win 2-0 is absolutely crazy. I'm going to start off by talking about the first goal by Irankunda. And I've been mentioning it a lot of times. I don't think Australia particularly have the best team, but what they do have is a few very underrated youngsters. Some of those youngsters include Toure, who is a 22-year-old playing for Norwich, but another one, Irankunda, 20-year-old playing for Watford. This guy is him. He is him. And that goal that he scored in the 27th minute was absolutely brilliant. Picked up the ball, dribbled past about 2 players, and a simple finish right into the corner. A very good goal by Irankunda. And it was definitely against the run of play. If you look at the momentum at this time, it was pretty much all Turkey. Obviously, we had small momentums here and there of Australia, but for majority of the whole game, it was mostly Turkey. And the way that right after that goal, like not even a second after that goal, the way that Australia turned into pretty much a back 7, like they just defended their box like crazy. After that goal, they just parked the bus. All 5 of these defenders, including some of the midfielders, they would have taken a 1-0. And at this point, I'm thinking, you know what? Turkey are 100% coming back. There's no way that Turkey don't come back in this game. They had way more shots in the first half. And in the second half, it was even more of a demolition by Turkey. They were all over Australia, but they just didn't have the clinical finishing ability to overcome that 1-0 deficit. And Australia were defending very well. And at the end of the day, we saw a goal once again from Australia in the 75th minute by Metcalf, a very good goal. He picked up the ball in the middle of the field. He ran all the way to the edge of the box, and another very nice finish, low and hard, right to the corner. And Kakir, the Turkish goalkeeper, it wasn't his best game, but those were 2 very difficult shots. I would blame more the defense for not covering the shots, not picking up on the runners. And I feel like Turkey, they just didn't do enough. They didn't do enough. They weren't clinical enough, but we also have to give a shout out to the Australian goalkeeper, Beach. Honestly, this guy was incredible. For me, the best goalkeeping game so far in this World Cup. He made 8 saves. XG faced was almost 1.5. He made all the saves. So it is fair to say that Turkey were not clinical enough. You look at a player like Aktürkoğlu, you look at some of the other players like Yilmaz, these players were not clinical enough in the attack. But you also have to give credit to Beach because he was incredible. He was making save after save. Even when Kenan Yıldız came on, I thought he was going to score. Obviously, he had chances, but at the end of the day, look at that. Look at these shots. Blocked, 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 blocked. Like, bro, Australia were literally in a back seven, but they got the job done. And this is the thing with Australia. We always know that in the World Cup, they always tend to overperform. They did it when they had Graham Arnold, and now it looks like they're going to do it again with Popovic. And I think they're going to get out of the group. I honestly do. Now, currently, they're sitting second place behind USA on goal difference. Turkey and Paraguay both have a horrible goal difference, and they need to get big results because goal difference is going to be very important, especially in this group. And at the current moment, it looks like Australia, with this result, will be making it out of the group. Moving on to the next game, we had Germany against Curaçao and Houston. To be honest, I don't really need to talk much about this game. I predicted a 5-0 win. Nemecha scored in the first 6 minutes of the game, and after that goal, I was thinking, bro, this could be 6, 7, 8-0. But then we saw a very nice goal from Curaçao by Comencha. And I gotta say, this Curaçao team, they actually have some decent players. For me, I thought some of the best players were some of the midfielders like Comencha, like Tahith Chong, like Bakuna. He also had a very underrated game as well. Not his brother, this Bakuna. And when Curaçao scored that goal, I'm thinking, you know what? They had a small bit of possession between that 5 to 10 minutes. They were doing okay. I thought maybe they may be able to hold Germany to only 2 or 3 goals. But then, obviously, before halftime, we saw the next 2 goals. We saw the goal from Slotterbeck, the header, and we saw the Kai Havertz penalty. And then in the second half, it was a complete demolition. We saw a goal from Musiala right at the start of the half. A very, very good goal. Tight angle, but a great finish by Musiala. As you can see, the angle was tight. I think it was this one right here. Very tight angle, but right into the corner, right past the goalkeeper. Then we saw another goal from Brown. We saw a goal from Unda. We saw another late goal from Kai Havertz. And 7-1. Definitely the most embarrassing game of the World Cup. I've been saying for pretty much the whole World Cup that I do think Curaçao are the worst team. I've been hearing a lot of people saying teams like Haiti, teams like Qatar are worse than Curaçao. I don't think so. I don't think any of these teams are worse than Curaçao. You know, it's great that Curaçao are here. I respect them being here, but I do think they are the worst team in the World Cup. Now, Dick Advocat, when they scored that first goal, he was going crazy. At the end of the game, bro, he was not having it at all. This is what I've been saying about Germany. I know it's Curaçao, but Germany can score goals against any opposition, and they can score a lot of goals too. And I've been mentioning a lot, Kai Havertz, the form that he's been at the end of the season, the way he's been performing in big competitions, whether it's in the Champions League semifinals, the Champions League final, in national team games, he's been scoring loads and loads of goals. His positioning is good. His striking ability is good. Yes, he may not be the fastest player. He may not be the best at dribbling, but in general, he is a good player. He has good experience with his German national team. He has experience playing at the top level. And I do think he will be a very important player for Germany in this World Cup. But at the end of the day, there's not much else to say about this game. Complete demolition. Moving on to the next game, we had Netherlands against Japan. And this was a game where I couldn't really predict a winner. I predicted a draw, as you saw from this intro clip. And I thought that Japan were actually the more creative team, the more convincing team. Yes, Netherlands dominated in terms of possession. If you look at the momentum, they had large portions of momentum. You look at the possession throughout the game, they had 60%. And in the first half, that was actually more. The first half of the game, they had almost 70% possession. But what did they do with that 70% possession? Absolutely nothing. Pretty much the only chance they had in that first half of over 300 accurate passes, almost 70% possession, was that header from Daniel Malin. That was pretty much the only real chance they had. Obviously, the Japanese goalkeeper Suzuki made a good save, and he was definitely a good player for Japan in this game. But that was pretty much the only chance for Netherlands, having 70% possession for a whole half. If you look at Japan, they didn't have many chances. I would say this Nakamura chance was probably the best, just missed the post. But that first half was honestly very, very stale. But the second half was a complete turnaround. Now, once again, both teams didn't have the most shots. As you can see, 6 shots to Netherlands, 7 shots to Japan. This game was heavily played in the middle of the pitch. A lot of passing around the back for both teams. A lot of, carrying the ball throughout the middle of the pitch, but not that many touches in the opposition box in the final third. In the second half, they showed the clinical abilities that they have. It started with that Van Dijk header. Now he was being guarded by, I think it was Watanabe. Honestly, none of these Japanese defenders can touch these Dutch defenders. These Dutch defenders are like 6'4", 6'5", all of them. They're probably like double the weight of the Japanese defenders. And Van Dijk just slightly shoves them away, and it's an open header, scores in the 50th minute. Not long after, Nakamura scores a great goal, dribbling on the edge of the box. It is a deflection, but it does end up going in the back of the net. And at that point, I didn't know who was going to win this game. Van Dijk just scored a goal. 7 minutes later, Nakamura scored a goal. Very different from the first half, and I thought it could go either way. And then, again, 7 minutes later, we saw a goal from Crescencio Somerville. This was definitely the goal of the game. He had the ball on the left side of the pitch. He just cut inside, and a beautiful finesse right off the post into the net. Honestly, Suzuki, I do think he's a good goalkeeper, but for the goals, he didn't really have any chance at all. Then for the next 20 or so minutes, it was pretty 50-50. I will say Japan started to gain possession towards the end of the game. They had more of the ball. They were started to dominate the game. And then the goal came. And it came in arguably the most unlikely of circumstances, from a set piece. Who would think that Japan would score a set piece goal against Netherlands? That's why I reacted crazily, as you saw in the intro clip. It was a goal from Daichi Kamada, as you can see, but it was actually the header from Okawa. He jumped up in the air. He got higher than all the Dutch defenders. He headed it onto the head of Kamada, who had no business being there. He didn't even know what was going on. It hit off his head, and then it went in the net past Verbruggen. Honestly, a very strange goal. It hit off the head of two players, but at the end of the day, Japan get the late equalizer. And I do feel like this is probably a better result for Japan, because I thought after Netherlands scored both goals, right, they were always in the lead this game. I thought they were going to get the win. So for Japan to come back 2 times is very, very impressive. Now, obviously, both of these teams do sit not in first, because the next game we're going to talk about, but this is still a decent result for both teams, but it really depends on how they perform against the other teams in this group. Moving on to the 4th game of the day, we had Ivory Coast against Ecuador, and this game definitely turned a lot of people's heads. A lot of people thought that this was a boring game. It wasn't really that entertaining. I will say I can see that perspective, but at the same time, there was actually a lot of interesting points to take away from this game. First of all, 3 times the crossbar was hit. 3 different times. We saw Yaboa, he hit the crossbar in the 23rd minute. Then not too long after, his teammate Minda hit the crossbar from very close range. A great move, a great 1-2 play. He needed to put this in the back of the net. The fact that he didn't finish this is crazy. I don't know why he shot it so high. He could have just slotted it in the bottom corner past the keeper, but he ended up hitting the crossbar only a few minutes after his teammate. Now, we did see another crossbar hit by Ivory Coast. I don't remember where it was. Wow, this one. Yeah, Ivory Coast. Yan Diomande dribbling on the right side, crosses it into Eliawahi. A great chance, but he hits the crossbar from close range. At this point, I'm like, bro, both teams aren't going to score, because there's no way we just saw 3 crossbar hits in a row. But at the end of the day, the goal scorer was a player that came off the bench, and it was Amad Diallo. And I don't know what it is with Amad Diallo. He seems to be the best, craziest super sub for Ivory Coast recently, but every time this guy comes off the bench, it looks like he's going to score. And he was the one that scored the late goal, and it was a very, very good goal. The 90th minute, cross right into him. Beautiful, beautiful finish past the keeper. And Ecuador, their defense was very good. We know their defense is good. They haven't lost in 19 matches, majority of those being 0-0 draws and 1-1 draws. So we know this defense is good. Rodonez, Pacho, Hincapié, even Franco, he wasn't even that bad either. Obviously, Caicedo in the midfield. Don't think it was his best game, but the problem with Ecuador for me lies in their attack. Who is the creative player? I've always said I think their most creative player is Gonzalo Plata, but other than that, I don't feel like they have enough creativity in the attack. Whereas you look at Ivory Coast, I think they're a much more complete squad than Ecuador. Yes, they have good defenders, but they also have a very good midfield, a very experienced midfield. They have great wingers and players that can play on the width, and even in the attack they have very good players as well. But Yan Diomande, for me, this guy was the man of the match for me. Look at that heat map. He was on the left side, he was on the right side, and any side he was on, he was incredible. The way he would just take on his defender one-on-one, he would just size him up, do a couple dribble, and get past them every single time. We saw him getting nutmegs. We saw him getting around 2 defenders. We saw him doing la croquetas, elasticos. He was always getting by his defenders, whether he was on the left side, whether he was on the right side, it didn't matter. And there was also a few times which I think really showed the type of player he is, where he lost the ball in the middle of the pitch and he didn't stand there like a Vinicius Jr., like an Mbappe. He ran back, he applied pressure on the opponent that took the ball from him, and most of the times he got the ball. And that's the thing with Yan Diomande. He's not just a winger, but he can defend, he can drop back, he can apply the pressure, and that's a very, very important asset that a lot of clubs around Europe want to have in a player. So that's why I think Yan Diomande is such a good player. But I do think that Ivory Coast did deserve this win. I predicted a draw. That was the probably most popular prediction, and it was looking like it was going to be a draw, but fair enough to Ivory Coast, they get the late win. And finally, the last game that I just got done watching, Sweden 5-1 Tunisia. Bro, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've been hating on Sweden for pretty much the whole World Cup because I don't think they deserve to be here based off how they performed in the Nations League, because in the qualifiers they were absolutely trash. But I gotta be honest with you, this Sweden team and this Sweden attack, every time I watch them play under Graham Potter, they look scarier and scarier and scarier. In this game, Isak gets on the scoreboard, Gyökeres gets on the scoreboard, Ayadi, who for me was the man of the match, took both of his goals incredibly. He was very, very good in that midfield. And I just thought Sweden were very good in this game, but Tunisia were very, very bad. Their goalkeeper, oh my gosh, Chamak, bro. Oh, what is he doing? For both the first 2 goals, he's way out of net. He ran out of net. He tried to hit the ball away. He fumbled it. He's running back to net. The ball falls with Ayadi way outside the box. By the way, a beautiful, beautiful volley, but goes right past the keeper. He's way out of net. And then the second goal with Isak. Bro, what is he doing? How does he not save that? Like, I know, you know, it's a good shot from Isak. It's a good shot. He got down there. He got down enough to save the shot. And the fact that it just slipped right under him, it's not good enough goalkeeping. And even for, I think it was either the 3rd or 4th, I think it was the 3rd goal from Gyökeres. What is their captain? Where is he? Where's the captain? Where is he? What's his name? Shaqiri. He's dribbling with the ball right outside the box. Isak is right there, intercepts it, passes it off to Gyökeres, easy goal. So the reason why Tunisia lost this game, yes, Sweden's attack were very clinical, but they caused their own downfall due to mistakes from the goalkeeper, the defenders, and obviously Shaqiri as well. Big mistakes from Tunisia. Other than that, Tunisia were good. Their goal from Rekik was a very good goal. And I do think Tunisia have a decent team, but their mistakes really cost them in this game. Then obviously we saw the late goal from Svenberg and another goal from Ayadi. And that goal, once again, bro, what a goal. What a goal. Side netting from outside the box. Yo, Ayadi is definitely a player to watch. And he's a fairly young player too. I feel like he's a fairly unknown player. Obviously he is playing for Brighton, but guys, watch out for him during the World Cup. And I gotta say, you know, Sweden, I've been giving them a lot of hate, but in recent competitions, in recent games, they have been very good. They've been unexpectedly good. And this was a very, very good result against Tunisia, especially in the group where you saw Japan and Netherlands both get a draw. That goal difference, that +4 goal difference, if they can get a result against either Japan or Netherlands, most likely they will finish in first place in this group, which will really, really help them in the knockout stages. So this was a fantastic result for Sweden. Their goal difference is through the roof. They have the best goal difference other than Germany in this World Cup. So I gotta say congratulations to Sweden. But as for Tunisia, they weren't bad, but they pretty much caused their own downfall. But that is the end of my day 4 World Cup recap. Like I said, we're going to be doing recaps for every single day of the World Cup, and this day did not disappoint. We had 5 games. We're gonna have a lot of games tomorrow. We're gonna have a lot of games throughout the rest of the group stages, so stay tuned. If you miss any games, guys, I'm watching literally every single one, so I'll be recapping all of the games at the end of every single day. But obviously, if you enjoyed this World Cup and if you've been enjoying all the World Cup streams, which have been going absolutely crazy, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.